Hello and welcome back to Fedora Fiction Podcasts. As you know, if you've been following, and if you're up this far, I don't know why you haven't been following. We are reading from Throwback Book 1, Aries Triumphant. We are on Chapter 14, Hubris. They arrived after nightfall, O'Shea manually steering the HC through the ice tunnel to the airlock doors of the habitat. Once inside, he dispatched Zhang to the shower while he unloaded the AT and the stasis units, which he placed over in the workshop of the mag field unit. Came back to the habitat through the connection to the mag field unit and found Zhang, hair wet and wrapped in a blanket, rehydrating a meal. Shower's free, she announced unnecessarily, taking the ration out of the rehydration unit. This place looks just like the habitat at the base, only newer. It's actually older, O'Shea pointed out, but it's just been used less. The hot water from his shower head felt good, and O'Shea was tempted to linger, but reminded himself that now there was someone else sharing his resources. He dried off with the hot air blower and put on a fresh set of clothes. He walked into the kitchen where Zhang, still in the blanket, was sitting at the table, sipping a cup of coffee. He put a ration in the rehydration unit. "Didn't you bring any clothes?" he asked as the meal rehydrated. "They're still on the HC," she replied. "I'll get them later." "I can get them now if you like." "Sit down, relax, and enjoy your meal," she admonished. "Then you can go get them for me," she added with a sly smile. He returned her smile with an appreciative one of his own and joined her at the table. "So you really do like the coffee," he noted after a moment. "Yes, I find it perks me up." "You'll do that," she agreed as he opened his ration pack. Zhang thoughtfully watched him eat for a few minutes. "Hey, Adam," she stuttered tentatively, "I've been thinking." "Wondering, really? How do you know for sure that it's really been as long as you say since we went under stasis? I mean, you're just not taking Lima's word, are you? There could be a glitch, couldn't there?" "That's what I thought at first, too," O'Shea admitted. "But Lima has run a check on her code twice and has since proven to be quite reliable." He finished the last bite of his ration and stood to make himself some coffee. "Besides, I found independent confirmation." Zhang looked skeptical. "What kind of independent confirmation?" "The Lima at your base, for one. Then there's the condition of the refining station for another." Zhang stared at her cup. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "but this is really fucking hard to accept. If this is true, then everyone you've ever known, everyone you've ever loved is gone." She finished for her. "I get it. Believe me. There's a part of me hoping I'm wrong too." He returned to the table with his coffee. "Do you think it would help if you saw the ruins?" "Ruins? Of the refining station?" "Oh." Her expression grew even more sober. "I guess it would." "All right, we'll go in the morning." "Lima, how are we doing on batteries and fuel?" Excuse me. "All batteries are charged to capacity and all fuel tanks are full, except for HC, of course," Lima replied. "I'll take care of that right now," O'Shea said, standing up. "That is, after I fetch Dr. Zhang her clothes." He began to move toward the door to the mag field unit and paused. "We can talk about how we'll get our asses off this red rock on the way out to the ruins tomorrow, but tonight we'll just take it easy." "Oh, Dr. O'Shea," Lima announced gently. "It's 7 a.m. O'Shea sat up groggily and looked across the room at Zhang, who muttered irritably and rolled over in her bunk to turn her back to the room. For his part, O'Shea rolled out of bed and headed to the exercise area to work out on the resistance machines. He had neglected to exercise during his expedition to the biopreservation base and felt he needed to make up for that. The workout woke him up, and he was about to ask Lima to put on some cheerful music when he walked into the kitchen to see Zhang apparently praying to a cup of coffee. "It's still dark," she said by way of greeting. Well, the sun won't be up for another hour, O'Shea pointed out as he put 2 meals in the rehydrator. And we are under several hundred meters of ice. I hate getting up in the dark. Duly noted. O'Shea watched the timer on the rehydration unit count down. How far away are the ruins? About 40 kilometers. O'Shea removed the rations, brought them to the table, and put one down in front of Zhang. How long will it take to get there? She asked as she opened her meal. The HC should get us there in about an hour. Do we have to get back in that again? We just spent 2 fucking days in there. We could take the AT. That's how I got there the last time, O'Shea observed between bites. It would take 4 hours each way, and we'd have to be in our EVA suits the entire time. We'll take the high cap, Zhang said decisively. As you wish. Zhang was quiet on the trip out, staring out the windshield as if she wasn't seeing. The rising sun began to illuminate the curved spires that were all that remained of the dome, and she started, as if awakened. What's that? She asked. That's what's left of the refinery, O'Shea replied calmly. When we get closer, you'll see that those were the main supports for the dome. What the fuck happened? She breathed quietly as if awestruck. O'Shea shrugged. I don't know for sure, of course, but I suspect 3,000 years of unrelenting cosmic radiation happened. The supports have tungsten in them, which is probably the only reason they're still standing. The domes at the O'Shea base were still standing, Zhang pointed out. Just barely, O'Shea noted grimly. Probably because they had a couple hundred years of protection from the magnetic field unit before it failed. That and the extra tungsten I designed into the optic panels. I was out inspecting them before you so abruptly resuscitated, he said, looking at her sadly. They won't last another 100 years. Zhang's expression turned from one of confused wonder to that of grim determination, but she offered no further remark until they arrived at the ruins and were driving alongside what was now a debris field. The dorms and living areas were under the ice, she asserted. Let's check those out. I have, O'Shea replied, but we can again. He stopped the HC near the door, and the two donned their helmets and went out through the airlock. As before, O'Shea pulled the door and the ice wall open. I don't know why I closed it, he muttered, grunting. Nothing's going anywhere. They walked through the locker room with its frozen disarray. Looks like everyone left in a hurry, Zhang noted. Didn't even bother to close the locker doors. They moved through the mess area where Zhang picked up a ration pack left on the floor. Do you suppose these are any good? She asked. They should be fine as long as the seals are intact, O'Shea noted. They're certainly no older than the ones we've been eating. Zhang walked around the room, inspecting cabinets and retrieving discarded ration packs to pile them on a table. We'll pick these up on the way out. They moved onto the bunk rooms, and O'Shea stood in the doorway as Zhang walked through one, picking up random objects to examine and place carefully on the beds. When she had completed the circuit, she came up to O'Shea. Do you think everyone made it out? I have no way of knowing, O'Shea replied. I didn't find any bodies, but then this is as far as I got the last time as I was running out of power and oxygen. Zhang started, horrified. I wasn't talking about finding bodies. Her shudder was visible through her EVA. What I meant was, do you think anyone got left behind in stasis like we were? Well, I suppose that's a possibility, O'Shea admitted. We can look for stasis units. We have time. The two moved through the dark habitat, probing the corners with their helmet lights. Room after room told of chaos and panic, with clothing and objects strewn about, as if the cabinets and drawers had exploded. They moved on and came to a door marked infirmary. The panel was ripped off, exposing the circuits, and the manual door lock that O'Shea had used to gain entry everywhere else bore signs of being pried. Even the door itself was marred by scratches and dents, as if it had been beat upon with heavy objects. It was only then that O'Shea noted broken pieces of furniture scattered around the floor. This looks like it was locked from the inside, he concluded after a brief inspection. Whoever was trying to get in clearly didn't know what they were doing. Or couldn't think straight, Zhang offered grimly. Do you think we can get it open? O'Shea took a closer look at the circuitry. It all depends on whether the motor still works. I can try to provide a power source. I brought extra EVA batteries. If that doesn't work, we'll have to cut it open, and I'll have to make tools to do that. We have to try, Zhang said decisively. There might be people in stasis in there. There was something in Zhang's tone that indicated that she would brook no argument. Not that O'Shea was prepared to argue. The two walked back through the habitat, stopping only to retrieve the rations Zhang had gathered. These they put in the HC, and O'Shea retrieved an extra EVA battery in his toolkit. Back at the infirmary door, O'Shea wired in the battery and held a wire over one terminal. Here goes, he said apprehensively as he touched the wire to the terminal. The door shuddered and slid open a few centimeters before a cascade of sparks erupted from the panel. O'Shea hastily disconnected the circuit. Although, he ruefully noted aloud, I don't know what I'm so worried about. There's virtually no atmosphere here, and what there is all CO2. He reconnected the circuit, the only result being more sparks and no more motion on the door. Okay, he said, let's try to pull it open. The two got their gloved fingers on the small opening, O'Shea near the top and Zhang near the middle. On three, O'Shea announced. 1, 2, 3, Zhang counted as the two pulled. The door opened another few centimeters. Again, Zhang commanded, and the door budged again. Again, Zhang repeated, and this time they got more than a few centimeters. I might be able to fit through, Zhang noted, and slid one leg and one arm into the opening. Her helmet, however, was several centimeters too big to fit through. She leaned a shoulder into the door as O'Shea pulled from the outside. 2 more attempts and Zhang slipped through. Oh, shit, he heard her whisper over the radio. The tone was more of despondency than surprise or horror. What? O'Shea asked, pulling the door wider so he could slip through. Once inside, his helmet lights revealed the answer. There were stasis units there, all right, 2 of them, but they were open. On top of one, 2 forms, hands at each other's throats, were locked in eternal, motionless struggle, while in the second, a woman lay preserved in what appeared to be solid acrylic. Along one wall, another mummified form sat on the floor, a metallic rod protruding from its chest. 2 other bodies lay on the floor, victims, upon closer inspection, of traumatic head injuries. Zhang had stood unmoving as O'Shea had moved around the room, carefully examining the bodies. He approached her and laid a gloved hand on her shoulder gently. Come on, he said quietly. There's no one here to save. The 2 slipped through the door again. We have to close this, Zhang said hoarsely once they were on the other side. O'Shea was about to protest, to argue that no one and nothing would disturb that ghastly freeze, but thought better of it. The 2 of them managed to work the door closed and walked out of the habitat in silence. Only when they passed the ruined dome and the HC on their way back to O'Shea's habitat did he hear Zhang murmur, Hubris. They were in the ice tunnel when Zhang spoke again. There's another base, she said simply, another 600 kilometers to the west of that one. O'Shea nodded. He knew where he was going with this. That's a 30-hour round trip, he observed dubiously. Not if we take the tunnels under the ice, she countered. It should take less than 2, 3 at the most to get there. If we don't get lost, O'Shea noted wryly. Do you have a map of the tunnels? No, but the O'Shea base, Lima does. Your Lima can download it from there. Okay, O'Shea sighed, but we don't want to miss a launch window that will get us to Earth sooner rather than later. We are not leaving anyone behind, Zhang replied firmly. I'm not saying we will, O'Shea replied just as firmly, but we had better start making long-term plans if we expect to get off this death trap. Well, that's the end of chapter 14. If you're enjoying these podcasts or these videos, please like, share, subscribe. You can also, in the comment section, leave questions or criticisms. Love to hear from you. I also need to note, of course, that this and other books published by Fedora Fiction Press, our sponsor, are available at amazon.com/author/Tom Goss. I'm Tom Goss. Thanks for listening.